IT configured domains of life is another dimension of IT configured societies. They're unreal, but also to a degree real now. We're talking about virtual environments here, like the role-playing games where you have some avatars and reside into a character to exist there. Uh, in fact, what we have here as avatar is your identity. Maybe you remember it uh, from the movie Avatar as well. Maybe it can be correspond to that. Now it has in fact no relation to offline. You can be someone else with your avatar. In fact, there are some issues here, legal issues as well. Like there are many cases. Suppose that there's harassment on these virtual platforms as well, and should this have virtual punishments only, or should they have real consequence as well? For example, hate speech. I mean, there should be only virtual punishments, or they should result in real consequences as well. Here, you need to make analogies and find some prevention mechanism or invent some prevention mechanisms for that by discussion, but we shouldn't forget that these are socio-technical systems. I mean, we should never have lose this focus on the issues. Maybe avatar can be corresponded to your family emblem. Okay, this is usually for rich families, but maybe shirt of your soccer club, like or flag of your popular club or something like this. Maybe, I mean, so the harassments against them should be called or should be made analogy like this. So this is open for discussion. You can take a moment to think about it. Wolfendale defined avatars in 2007 as this definition. Of course, there are many definitions, but this is from the text. The embodied conception of the participant's self through which she communicates with others in the community. So he's underlying that it is self, and you're using the avatar as a, I mean, symbol to communicate with other people in that platform. That's it. I mean, so maybe although they're virtual, it has some relation to reality as well. So that's why we say that they should be viewed as a socio-technical system where human is a part of integrated part of it as well. This type of lives or this type of applications or platforms can result in internet addiction as well, which is becoming a quite popular problem of these years. What do we mean by addiction here? By definition, any persistent compulsive behavior that is harmful to you in long-term consequences. They define internet addiction with up to 40 to 80 hours per week on the internet, with individual sessions sometimes reaching up to 20 hours. There are tests for this on the online, on the web as well. Just answer a set of questions, maybe 20 of them. And then comes your result immediately. Like maybe, of course, they are not reliable tests, but give you an idea. But it should be noted that it is in Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders as a section. So it's not something imaginary. It is medically a condition as well. It results in societal harm by overuse. It harms the society. It can be seen as a computer or application or device engagement, which it has a similar role as alcohol and drugs, because it results in emotional relief, mental escape, you avoid problems with them, etc. So if they are similar, if we accept that it is an addiction, a typical internet addict is usually, we can say that, addicted to some single application rather than numerous applications. Like for example, a particle application is usually the concern here. Usually the addiction is our simple application. And the similar problem is for video games as well. It is also another problem, and unfortunately by World Health Organization it is named as gaming disorder starting from 2019. Again, it is a verified let's say mental disorder again by 2019. So it is a in order to be diagnosed with the addiction, a person must show 12 months of severe symptoms, including, look at these severe symptoms, what are they? Prioritizing gaming over work. Instead of work, you play games. Instead of studying, you play games. And instead of interacting with people, no, I will stay at home and play games or whatever. It means that those are the symptoms of gaming addiction. If you prefer them over other activities, so it might be called. Okay, you should think about it. I don't know. And about 165 million Americans played a video mobile game last year, according to eMarketer's research as well. Especially during pandemic, since people have hard time socializing, I think there's an increase in video game video game application plays as well, video game playing as well. I think it's normal to a degree, but if you have symptoms of addiction, maybe it should be taken care of by some help, maybe, or maybe by your own measures. The thing is, so all ethical theories conclude that people use critical judgment for themselves. So the thing that you can do is for yourself. For Peel, a researcher, the recovery comes from these steps. The first one is the most important one. The person first must accept that addiction is hurting and show some wish to overcome. So we should first confess that we have a problem. Otherwise, no need to go for the second and third steps. And we should feel enough benefit for managing withdrawal and life without addiction. Life without addiction should be a better life for us. Otherwise, again, it's not practical. And we should find sufficient alternative rewards to make life without addiction worthwhile. Usually people put something else into that addiction to reward themselves. Like, for example, suppose that you believe that you are a video game addict. Instead of playing video games, whenever you want to play a game, you go and make some exercise. For example, you go and play some basketball, or you go and, for example, make some weightlifting, for example. You see, you should shift the rewards. You should get the rewards from some other things, or maybe, I don't know whether it can be a reward. Of course, they should be enjoyable. Something more beneficial things which give rewards. What do we mean by rewards here? As the addiction mechanisms in social applications or games, or let's say drugs and alcohol and smoking, whatever, they all abuse dopamine. You can check it, like pleasure hormones. So those reward mechanisms are abused in those type of applications as well. You can read it about them more on the internet. We will not go in detail, but that's why putting other rewards can be important for overcoming those type of addictions. We should never forget that, this is maybe, but this is in the textbook, but we should never forget that an addict will not recover unless life without the addiction has sufficient rewards. So there should be a motivation for getting over an addiction, internet addiction as well. And how about friendship and social networking on the internet? It's an ancient philosophical issue. Can there be true friendship online? We mean just online. Now, we don't consider about the situation maintaining friendship or increasing the frequency of friendship online. It's something different. We know a person in real life, we met him in real life, but we're just increasing our communication on the internet. Or maybe he went to another country, but we're still keep in touch by social networking applications. That's another case. We're not mentioning about it. We're talking about making new friendship online that you don't know, because your communication brings up reproducibility issue again. I once heard one of my friends keeping a record of the messages of his girlfriends just for future reference. For example, it's unbelievable. Maybe sometimes taking screenshots and recording everything, and like a detective or something, that maybe he can use them later. It's crazy. I mean, we should know that. Making or establishing a new friendship online is really different than real friendship online. So it has something. So if we say that this is a one-dimensional line here, like this is one extreme end and the other extreme end, that it can be our relationships with people can be fully offline or fully online, and in the gray areas here, like maintaining friendship or increasing frequency of friendship will be in the gray area here. They can be either completely real friends, completely online friends, and something somewhere in between are all possible. And what about democracy and the internet? I asked this question in first chapter maybe. Is internet a democratic technology or not? Okay, IT, and when we talk about information technology and the internet particularly, do you think they're democratic technologies? Okay, there are some properties. It gives us the ability of decentralization of power, which is good. And the reproducibility issue is good here, like maybe can be related to open source movement as well. We discussed this in chapter 5 as well in property rights. And as we say that, we ask the question, what is democracy? We mean by the definition, of course there are many definitions about it, but we can say that the political power should reside in the citizens of a nation rather than in a single person. Okay, otherwise it would be called a monarchy or dictatorship if they rely on a single person. Otherwise the citizens should have some rights. Or if a small group holds the political power, it is called oligarchy or aristocracy. We don't mean that. Democracy is where the power resides in the citizens. So it is Kantian and also utilitarian with respect to the textbook we're using. And the political parties are using internet for political campaigns, their political campaigns as well, as we see from the election propagandas in United States currently, for example, between Trump and Biden, for example, between the Republicans and Democrats. They are using internet for political campaigns frequently. So let's take a look at the arguments on behalf of many-to-many property of internet, which promotes democracy here. On behalf, for promotion of democracy on the internet, individuals produce and distribute information, which is good. So it is giving some power on the individuals, and it is using forums instead of harshly mediated, harshly controlled mass media, because their mediations are different, more free here on the forums or Twitter. It's easy to have freedom of speech, and we can have access to many more sources of information because it's decentralized. and associations of independent of geographic distances are possible. I mean, I can gather with peoples with like-minded like me, no matter, I mean, they're thousands of kilometers or away from me. I can still form some groups, form some political campaigns together with them. That's the idea. They are all arguments on behalf, in the benefit of that internet is a democratic technology. But does above four these justify that internet is a democratic technology? Is it enough? Not all. No, unfortunately not. Not all of the internet technology is democratic, because there are search engines use some algorithms, and we don't know what they show us, because their algorithms are usually hidden. We don't know whether we see are fair or not. And although internet gives power to less powerful people, to individuals, for promoting their political beliefs, but be careful, it gives new power to already powerful people as well. Faster piping is a debate on United States. For example, some major companies, some corporations ask for better bandwidths, communication bandwidths other than their, let's say, smaller rivals. So they're asking for other types of communication protocols. It's a debate. And we shouldn't forget about the surveillance capacity of internet. Everything we do on the net is being recorded. It's leaving traces on the devices. And there is also a harmonization problem between countries, and even between the different states of United States of America. I mean, there are some different approaches. And it is a many-to-many communication platform, but still not all-to-all yet. There are still some degree of people, some percentage of people who do not have access to internet like us. And it is not inherently democratic technology. We can conclude like this. Let's reach a conclusion here from the textbook. It's not inherently democratic, but definitely we're talking about a socio-technical system here. So what we mention here is the digital divide. It's not all to all yet. As you see, this is a picture about the country's access to internet with their, as you see, Turkey is somewhere here, and the gap here is between the developed countries and the other ones is increasing dramatically. This is called the digital divide. This has been analyzed in chapter 9, I guess, Work and Wealth chapter of this textbook. And the freedom of expression. In United States, it is the most cherished and most controversial right at the same time. It's an old topic, in fact. Free speech guaranteed for political issues, in fact, but it is also valid for non-political views as well. You can extend that to non-political as well, because it is really hard to make a distinction between them. What we mean by free speech is not limited to words. It also covers the artistic expressions, scientific expressions. So we're talking something more than words here as we talk about speech, like a novel or a scientific study or a statue or a painting, whatever, okay, or a comic strip or something like this. Freedom of expression, freedom of speech covers many intellectual products. As a court view, freedom of speech must be balanced against public good. It is not an absolute right in this sense. It is not a direct absolute right. For example, cigarette advertisements are prohibited on television and such other, dangerous materials. And some cities zone, for example, adult bookstores because of lowering property and increasing crime in those places. Okay, another issue. And for example, for broadcasting, criteria are different. For books, criteria are different. For example, because For broadcast, it's very limited right in terms of freedom of speech because it is uniquely pervasive. Pervasive means, goes deep into the people's life or families, and it is uniquely accessible to children who even cannot read as well, like the radio broadcasts or television broadcasts. Even the people who cannot read are subject to those advertisements, for example, or those programs. But for books, only the people who are interested most probably will buy them. That's why broadcasting freedom of speech is very limited to, for example, published texts. It's normal. So in this chapter we discussed about ethics in IT configured societies, ethical issues in IT configured societies, as we relied on the text given in Quinn's book, Michael Quinn's book, and Deborah Johnson's book here. And I used Google Images for many, and How Stuff Works, and Wikipedia was my other sources of information for other interesting topics.